Thanks for joining me here on today's Tropical Weather Impact. It is Friday, July the 11th here. The Tropics Hurricane Center not tracking anything across the basin, although we do have about 4 or even 5 areas of disturbed weather tagged across the Atlantic basin. Nothing's expected to form as we go through the weekend or even early next week. So things are still looking rather calm here as we head towards the middle of July. Now, we were talking about those tropical waves. There are actually about 4 lined up between the Caribbean islands and all the way back to the continent of Africa. Mostly dry, though, and inactive tropical waves, just not a whole lot of moisture with them. There's a little bit of moisture traveling through the Caribbean right now, a couple of them out here, and then notice another one coming off the coast of Africa at the moment. None of these look like they're really going to do much as we go through the weekend here, so no big concerns there. Now, as we get you into the weekend here and more so into next week, we do have a feature or two we're going to keep an eye on in the northern Gulf. So understanding what's happening in the atmosphere and what's going to be controlling the weather across the Gulf Coast, let's take a look at the upper air atmosphere. This is 500 millibars, just a little meteorology lesson. We look at the different millibars throughout the atmosphere. The higher the number, the lower in the atmosphere because there's more pressure down here closer to the surface. The lower the number, the lower the millibar, the lower the pressure. And so we're looking at about 500 here. We'll call it the mid-levels. And this is showing a big ridge of high pressure circulation clockwise, and it's centered over the Gulf Coast. This is through early next week. This means that, well, there's probably not going to be a whole lot going on here along the northern Gulf early next week other than heat, humidity, and a couple of storms. Now, what you will notice is that ridge begins to break down and you get this weakness in the atmosphere here by the end of next week. And so by the time we get to about, here we are Tuesday or so into Wednesday, you see this weakness. This is going to be a little trough of low pressure, an upper level trough. And that's where we're going to start to see tropical moisture begin to collect and showers and storms form. Now, eventually, all that moisture is going to start to travel somewhere, and it's going to get pulled underneath this ridge, which means that moisture would try to get tugged further west along the northern Gulf Coast, and this would bring maybe the potential for some higher moisture to the Louisiana area and over towards other portions of the Gulf Coast. So that's what we're going to be watching with the upper level atmosphere. Now here's what the moisture is going to look like. As we fast forward into early next week, you can see a lot of tropical moisture over Florida. That's not out of the norm for July. Here's where the corridor begins to come together of that tropical moisture and an elongated trough of low pressure. Now, trough of low pressure is just that. It's an elongated area of lower pressure thanks to showers and storms. Now, occasionally, this time of year especially, you can get some weak low areas of pressure that form. Sometimes, if they strengthen enough, the wind shear's low, you got warm water, you get a depression, you get a storm, and occasionally get a hurricane. Now, in this case, we don't have all the ingredients coming together here. It's unclear on exactly how this plays out. But as we head towards the end of next week, so this is a week from now, July 18th into next weekend, we may have a concentrated area of tropical moisture somewhere along the northern Gulf, let's say Louisiana, back through Alabama, Mississippi, or even into the Florida Panhandle. Now, we don't have a lot of model guidance suggesting this is going to blow up into anything substantial. We run a lot of different models, other than what you see maybe on the internet with the GFS American or the European model. We run ensemble models for all those, and what that is it's basically we take the European model, we change a couple things on it, and we run it like 51 different times, and that spits out 51 different scenarios. And out of all those 51 scenarios, there's only a couple that actually show a storm forming in the Gulf here later next week. That's not very many. Typically, if you're confident a storm's going to form, almost every single one will show at least some variation of a storm. Now, the GFS is a little bit more dramatic with something trying to form, but it's also the GFS, which it often does overdo things in the tropics, especially over the past couple of years we've seen that. So all that to say is the concern level, it's about as low as you can get right now. Now, I do think we're going to have some extra moisture next week. That could increase the heavy rain threat, but whether it becomes a depression or a storm, we're not really sold on that just yet, and it's really just a wait and watch thing at this point. But again, this would be later next week we follow that, and so just check in once a day here on our tropical weather impacts, and we'll let you know what the latest thinking is. In the meantime, let's talk about a Texas flood threat this weekend. There is a growing concern for some heavy rain across Texas as we go through your Saturday and Sunday. The type of pattern that's setting up could yield some heavy rain across, especially northern parts of Texas here. So this is what our weekend flood risk looks like. You can see there is a level 2 risk. It's very, very large. It includes West Texas, north central Texas, all the way down into the DFW metro. And then that risk does slightly decrease as you head down towards some of those hardest hit flooding areas in the hill country of South Texas, towards Austin, San Antonio, and north, up around Caryville, where they saw the worst of the flooding. So what I'm really honing in on is the potential for flooding closer to the I-20 corridor here later Saturday and even into Sunday. Now, these areas aren't nearly as hilly as what they see down here, so your flash flood risk, it doesn't really materialize like it does down here in South Texas where you get into these hills, but up around Dallas, Abilene, Wichita Falls, these corridors, you can still get some substantial flooding here this time of year. So let's show you a precision cast on how this could all play out. Maybe you have travel plans to Dallas this weekend. You really should watch the forecast closely. So here we are Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening. Let's start with Friday, actually. I want to go through what's going to happen for Friday. Notice a lot of the showers and storms today are probably staying in the Panhandle, up in Oklahoma and down into parts of New Mexico. Those are probably not going to cause any huge flood risk problems. There could be a couple strong storms, though. Let's fast forward into Saturday. We kick off Saturday morning. You get a large area of showers and storms forming in Oklahoma. They try to drift down to the south here. Now keep in mind, as these drift south, there's not a lot of steering currents in the atmosphere, and so eventually this is all going to start to slow down, and this is where flooding could start to become a concern into Saturday evening and Saturday night. Now this is one high resolution model. It's probably not going to play out exactly like this, but I do think there's going to be a flooding threat developing maybe Saturday night into Sunday morning somewhere across that I-20 corridor, and we're talking about that potential near the Dallas-Fort Worth metro, maybe somewhere down back towards Abilene or even further southwest into South Texas there, San Angelo, and other Big Springs and other areas. So this has got the attention of forecasters that there is a flood risk. Now, whether this sets up anywhere north, south, right over the metroplex there of Dallas, we'll have to see. I mean, it could virtually be anywhere in this area, but that's got your attention here for a flooding threat. And you can see there, it doesn't have a whole lot of movement as we go through your Sunday. That would be the first round. There could be even more rain. So that's going to be the main thing to watch out for, is a flood risk somewhere in that I-20 corridor. Now, with that being said, there are still going to be scattered showers and tropical rains falling all the way down here into South Texas. Notice near Houston, even in Louisiana, we've got our scattered showers and storms popping up this weekend. And this, for us down here closer to the Gulf, will be more of the variety of what we usually deal with. Pop-up thunderstorms in the afternoon. They don't move quickly. It's heavy rain. 2 to 3 inches an hour is not uncommon. So that's something to monitor through the weekend here, especially for that I-20 corridor from Dallas, maybe over towards the Shreveport, Texarkana area. I'm thinking this is going to be the greatest flood threat concern as we go throughout the upcoming weekend. So overall, not a whole lot going on in the tropics. We just continue to deal with the heavy rain threat across the country. We've had many instances over the past week. Today does mark the 1 year anniversary from the 1 week anniversary, excuse me, from the terrible floods there in South Texas. This is not the same setup today, but through the weekend here, certainly that heavy rain threat. And elsewhere, we're just in our summertime routine across the Gulf Coast from Houston to New Orleans, back through Florida. There will be afternoon showers and storms popping up each day. And then back through the Caribbean here, you've got a couple little waves of moisture moving on through that increase some rain, maybe a little wind there too. But outside of that, tropics not terribly active. Just going to watch the northern Gulf as we go throughout next week. The end of next week is when there will be that extra moisture collecting in the Gulf. And if it all goes accordingly to what you need to get something to form, there is that off chance that maybe we get some low pressure. So that's where it stands. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Again, if you have travel plans to Texas, please watch the forecast closely. Here along the Gulf Coast, scattered showers and storms will be likely each and every afternoon. Have a great weekend. We'll see you right back here on Monday.